welcome Lars Gimbringer and Erik Sandberg to this conversation with supply chain 600 seconds. You are Lars, Vice President Product, you just told me, and Erik, as many of our audience knows, perhaps you are Managing Director Europe. But please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the Optimity, the company. I begin with you, Lars, please.
Right. Yeah, I will. Yeah, I'm one of the founders of Optimity and been a planning nerd for my entire professional life. That's what I've been doing since I left university. So I've been with a few different companies before Optimity, but always within demand and supply chain optimization. And the reason we started Optimity was very much that we saw an opportunity with the 64-bit architecture that came along sometime in 2005, 2006, because it opened up a new market for optimization. Before that, it was very much used for strategic aggregated planning, but 64-bit basically meant that overnight you could start using more granular models with detailed data, which meant that optimization could be a tool to support operational planning and daily decision making, and also very integrated with the ERP systems. And we saw that opportunity and we decided to bet on setting up our own company. So that's what we did, and yeah, we've been going for about 15 years now. So it's all good.
Decision, apparently. And you, Erik, please tell us about yourself.
Yeah, no, I started later than Lars then. So I started up as, we were small back then. We were 4 or 5 persons, I think, in Europe or in Stockholm when I started up. And at the beginning, it was mainly delivery, making sure customers were happy, and then finding some smaller customers. But in the last, this is 9 years so soon, we've been sort of acquiring new partners. We've been having new big customers, found a lot of relationships, and really managed to increase the business. And at the moment, I would say I'm mainly in sales, but I do keep a track on the details as well. So still a planning nerd, as Lars has said as well. So I guess that's where it's all started. But then with the growth, I've been sort of focused, or I've been having to do other things as well. So now it's mainly sales, actually. Yeah.
Okay. Both of you being planning nerds, how does that affect your personal life?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think I'm that organized in my private life, unfortunately, as I would like to be. But yeah, somehow I do think it impacts, though, because you constantly think about, when you're ordering hamburgers at McDonald's, where is the bottleneck and the traffic jams, etc. So somehow it does impact, but different things.
For me, it's more that I have the planning at work, not at home, really. So completely unorganized at home. Yeah.
Okay, that's a balance anyway. So that's good. You have one office actually in Australia, and also one in New York, a small one, you told me, and then the Stockholm office, which now is, as I understand it, the head office. Can you tell us about this geographical spread and what it emanates from?
Yeah, it's a good question, because it's not very strategic. It's more opportunistic history behind that, because we lived in Australia when we set up the company in 2008, and then I moved back to Sweden 2010. So I obviously needed to have an office so I could continue my work with Optimity. And from then on, we knew some people in Singapore who wanted to be partners to Optimity. And then the last office in the US, that was actually a planned establishment, because we had American customers and they wanted us to be close to them. So we needed an office there. And it's also, it's a huge market as well. So it's an office we plan to grow.
Okay, that was based on planning anyways.
Yeah, that's the exception.
And looking ahead, it looks likely that we're going to have some offices in Central Europe, UK probably, and so on. It's going to take some 1 or 2 years, I think. But we're looking to establish those as well, having a lot of customers in the UK especially, but we would probably need another placement in Europe as well, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, and you have a very good and successful growth since many years now, as I understand it. And it's you especially you have your edge within food and beverage, and also in manufacturing, as I understand it. What's the reason for this? Is it just a coincidence that you start somewhere and then it evolves, or what's the background?
I think it's a couple of reasons for that. I think one is that food companies, they are very well suited to use optimization, because optimization, when you have a mixed push-pull environment, optimization is superior other more rudimentary techniques like MRP, etc. So a lot of food companies benefits a lot from using optimization. And secondly, I think if you look at ourselves, our domain expertise and our domain knowledge, we've been doing manufacturing and planning in manufacturing for a long time. Erik, I mean, has been doing that for 20 years, and we have some other people who come from that background. So they were implementing APS systems, you know, in the late 90s, and that's a perfect background to become an Optimity consultant. So, but maybe you want to add to that, Erik, perhaps.
No, I mean, it's the domain knowledge that we have, and that makes sense to utilize that into product development, and those are the customers that we can speak to in a good way as well. So if we go into other areas, we're not as proficient with what you're doing. We don't really understand them from the start. So I mean, it's basically, if you start a bit later, you also need to focus quite heavily on a few things. And I think that's what we try to do. And then obviously we are a bit of optimization nerds as well. So once or twice we see a good odd optimization problems, and then we attack that as well, because we can do good solutions for that as well.
Now compared to when we started, we're a bit more selective in, you know, what opportunities we go after. I think you need to be that when you're bigger, because you need to put your focus somewhere. So, but having said that, sometimes you do pick up very interesting opportunities outside those focused verticals. So, and also I guess happy references lead to new customers within the same space. So.
Is it important to be focused on in an area or a certain business like this?
I would say 100%. I mean, the recent success in the UK, for example, is that we managed to win a deal within food and beverage where we have good domain knowledge and so on, and then we get to learn their vocabularies, and then we can spread our wings even more. We can speak about depot days and minimal life of receipt for certain customers. We understand what they talk about in the UK, and the next time around they like you from minute one, because you understand what they're talking about when you speak to them. So having that focus means you will do a good show once you start talking to them.
I suppose that you could say that success in a company like this has to do with the products that you offer, of course, but also about the culture and the people. So I thought that perhaps we could talk about this for a few minutes. If we start with the products, the software, the product, what are the main advantages that you provide there, do you think?
Yeah, good question. I think we are very deep in functionality when it comes to supporting, you know, our core industry, our focus for food, because we've worked with that for a long time now, and we know what they need in planning. So it's very rare that we come across a food company with a problem that we haven't solved before. And that puts us in a very good position, because we have a lot of the functionality out of the box, configurable for new opportunities. I think what also sets us apart a little bit is that we are still small enough to also react to new customer needs. So we commonly develop new features for our customers if they need it, new customers as well as much as old customers. If it's functionality that fits our standard functionality, so to speak, we gladly develop it for free, and you know, as long as we feel more customers can benefit from it. So I think that is two things at least that I think which is easier in a smaller company versus a big company. It's
I would also say, I mean, with product base, I mean, the flexible framework that we have, meaning we can, from a consultant's perspective, we can actually add new capabilities, functions by sort of put up a customized dialogue for the customer and customize the optimization handling and so on. So although it's a really standard application that you can get up and running quickly, we can also add things from a consultancy perspective, meaning really easy to make sure we handle the customer requirements. So having both of that is making, I mean, life a lot easier, I would say.